Okay, so one of the questions that I get asked, I wouldn't say the most, but I would say it's a pretty frequent question from younger women is, hey, you've been married a long time, and why is it so hard? And how do I make this work? And so in January, Casey and I celebrated 30 years, and we went to a restaurant, and our waiter was like, what's the key to success? And I was like, oh, haha, he's kidding. He was like, no, I really want to know, like, what's the key to success? And I just thought, man, I wish I could do it like that quick and rattle it off, you know? Wouldn't that make it easy? Like, here are my 5 points.
That'd
you know?
be nice.
Yeah. And I was like, stay a minute and I'll tell you a story. And I thought, man, that's really usually what's the most impactful, you know? So sitting around this table, I mean, I know each of you, you've been married 28, 30, 36, 30 years. I know it hasn't all been a bed of roses. So what would you say? Like, how have you cultivated a healthy marriage? What have you done? And what have you avoided?
Yeah.
We have to understand that it's a decision. Like, you stand up before God and everybody and you say, I'm deciding that I'm going to make a commitment to this man. And so we've never used the word divorce. It's not in our vocabulary. There's not an escape route from our marriage. And if you take away the escape route, then you have to figure it out. And, you know, that's the biggest thing for me. I hear other younger couples maybe talk about that, especially if they've been married before and divorced and then remarried. That's like the easiest thing to say. Well, this may not work out. Well, that's not really an option for us. It's going to work out. And it's got us 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about, like, what about when it's difficult though? And I mean that in the best way, but like, I would agree. Like, you could say, okay, I'm going to take divorce off the table, right?
Yeah.
But then what do you do when it's really terrible and awful? And, you know, you don't have an escape, but maybe you don't know how to fix it, or you don't know what to do. Like, what are some things that you did to stick it out, you know, to make it? Because I know that it's one thing to be married. It's another thing to enjoy being married, you know? And I don't think anybody's asking us the question, like, man, how do I power through, right? I think they're asking, like, how do I do this in a way that, like, we're thriving, you know?
Yeah. I would say I spent 40, well, I'm 56 years old, but I've been married 37. So I would say I spent maybe 30 of those years trying to do, I was a people pleaser. So trying to do the right thing, trying to power through, trying to do what you're supposed to do as a good wife. And thankfully, I'm actually married to somebody can be a challenging personality. And I was afraid of that for most of the time, but now I realize he really just wanted to know what I like. Like, who am I? What do I like? What do I prefer? And so I had to go deep and figure out, like, it was scary. I had to figure out who am I and what do I like? And then I had to start saying that. And I had to start saying it in ways that, like, I've heard him say, you don't like these things. So even as, this is going to sound funny, but music, like, he's a big music guy, and he would say, that's just such a stupid song or whatever. And I had to start coming back, like, the next day and saying, actually, I really like that song. Like, that's something that I really like. So there's a lot of fear that as I say who I am, he might not like that. And he might not like who I really am. And he would get frustrated, but one day I just woke up and I realized he's here. He's still here. So he's not going, he has made a decision. He's not going anywhere. So for me, I had to have the courage to be real and be who I am.
I love that.
So when you say he has a challenging personality, I mean, nobody at this table doesn't know this about me. I'm the challenger, okay? Like, that's definitely my personality. And over the years, like, I've seen where, like, I really actually just think that I'm trying to dig but the other person is feeling like
Scared.
I'm digging with malicious intent.
Yes.
You know? And so how did you conclude, oh, he's not digging with malicious intent?
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Like he was on your side.
There was a few, we had to argue like there. So we didn't argue very much because I would always give in. So I had to stand up and say, I disagree, you know, and you might not like it. So one of the things we've learned recently is it's okay to be two different people. It's okay that he has preferences that he doesn't like, you know, about me, and I have preferences, you know, we don't like those things about each other, and that's okay. We're different people. He can be irritated with me when I need more sensitivity. I can be irritated with him when he needs more directness. Like he just wants to be direct. And I am like, you know, my eyes are like this, you know, and so yeah, it was just, we argued, and there's been about 10 really loud, and I feel like I'm yelling, like I literally am yelling, and he's like, what is going on? But I feel like I'm matching the tone, you know what I mean? And he doesn't hear himself as being that loud. So there's anyways, so there's been some deep arguments and one of us would leave, but then again, seriously, in the past couple of years, we've had a big argument, and I was like, wait a minute, he's still here. He comes back.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
really good.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So there's built a trust. I know it sounds weird after 36 years, 37 years,
So it's on.
but
Yeah.
I know that I can disagree and he's still going to be there.
Yeah.
And I know that he can be irritated with me and he's still going to be there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the challenge within marriage. You're having two people that literally don't really know each other, having to then suddenly come together and live together and somehow like each other and love each other and have children and do all the things. But I love that because I think for Roland and I, communication has been our biggest lessons of trying to learn how to hear what the other person is truly saying. So I'm very much like Charity, where I'm the challenger. And then I'm married to a perfectionist who's also challenger in a different kind of way. So our arguments would be always dynamite. I mean, we're fireworks. We are loud, explosive. So one of the things that we've done in our marriage to really help us is we have to have a scale, 1 to 10. 1 meaning that this is not really very important. 10 being this is incredibly important. Because guess what? My not really important sounds like a 10.
It's so good.
So Roland is going here the whole time going, why are you shouting? Like, what is your problem? I'm like, I'm not shouting.
Yeah.
I'm just a passionate human being. So I've had to really say really strongly before even entering in or while I'm entering into this discussion, hey, FYI, this is only a 4 for me. But I'm going to sound probably like a 10. And he does the same. And it has changed our way of communication.
Yeah, that's great.
Forever.
Yeah.
So
That's really good.
That's great.
I think what is so encouraging about that too is, so what I heard you say is he doesn't hear himself. And what I heard you say is I'm really passionate.
Yeah.
And we tease at our house because I could say, I'll use my boys as an example, like, why didn't you pick up your stuff? Like, it's in the hallway. And they would go, why are you yelling at me?
Yeah.
And I would just be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't take it. You
Oh,
know?
sensitive.
I can't take it,
Yes.
you know? And so when you are passionate or when you have those, you're right. Like you can have something that's really not that big of a deal,
Yeah.
you know? But the flip side of that is that I've had to learn to say, is this a preference for me or is this a value? And those are really, really different things. And so a preference for me looks like, I mean, I would like it this way because everybody has a thought or an opinion, but I'm not going to die on that hill. But a value for me is like, this is like, this is super important and non-negotiable. And I think defining those for myself. So yes, I think having a level, I'm going to totally use that. That's fantastic. But also me having to kind of scale myself back and go, my preference is that they scrub the dishes before they put them in the dishwasher, you know, but I'm not going to die on that hill. That's not a value, you know? And so that helped me tone down a lot of unnecessary
That's good.
nipping. Yeah, but it took me a long time to figure that out, you know, and it actually, it actually took me having conflict outside of marriage and in the workplace to figure that out and to bring that into our home, because I happened to work with someone for a while that everything was like, if it's not my way, everything's going to explode and burn up. And I was like, I mean, literally like the way I made my coffee, you know, or whatever. And I was like, okay, this is a preference, you know, or whatever. And then I went, oh my gosh, like that's a light bulb moment.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, Kelly, I heard you say that like you just made the commitment.
We did.
Now, didn't both of you come from divorce families?
Our families, our families still.
Both.
They went the longevity too. So I guess that was also emulated for us as well. Like, and I can't say that they hadn't had their struggles either, the parents. One thing I did, when you were saying you and your husband, that you were both like could kind of argue passionately. We are like the opposite. I'm a verbal processor and he's a stuffer. And in the last couple of years, we've really had to start recognizing that of, okay, I'm processing out loud. He doesn't know if this is something that he needs to fix for me or just listen. And so those are some conversations that we have. And he'll now say, are you wanting me to listen or are you wanting me to help fix it? And that has been so freeing for both of us because I just need to get it off. If I can get it out, then I feel better.
Yeah.
Him, he has to get it out. And we're having to encourage him to, you know, you think you're just, you know, keeping it in yourself, but we can see what's going on, right? Like you can. They think that those stuffer type personalities think that they know they're having an irrational thought maybe or whatever. And so he didn't want to share because he felt like he was being irrational. So he'll just work it out. But his whole body language was saying different. And so then I would have to pull from him, okay, what are you thinking now? And I think it's both. Like I've had to pick and choose when I'm going to verbally process, because maybe he's in the middle of something and now he's not going to really have time for me to verbally process, and then he's going to go into fix it mode. Well, that's not appropriate for me at that point. Just as much so as it isn't appropriate for him to stuff and just figure it out on his own, because I'm walking around going, I don't know what I did. David, if you just tell me what I did, I can apologize. And so it's both and, right? It's like we're both growing.
I love that. I think also within marriage, I don't know what you guys would think, but I think sometimes just being able to walk away or go to sleep and wake up the next day or go on a walk and come back, like that's okay. Like
absolutely.
It's okay. Go to bed. Like you may just
like
be...
there's actually science around that.
Really?
When you're afraid or you're angry, your brain is actually shutting down. And so if you can take a break, your brain will open up and you'll have better problem-solving skills.
So
yeah, for
I
sure.
feel like the angels are singing right now.
So have you ever
take a break?
We're not going to solve this tonight. I love you. I'm in this. I'm going to sleep. We'll pick it up in the morning.
100%. But I think so often we've done disservice to people. You have to resolve this. You know that before you go to bed. And that is such a lie from pit of hell. It is okay to go to sleep, rest, get that.
Go take a walk. Go to another room. Take a deep breath.
Come back.
Yes.
So
You know, one pattern that I'm hearing over and over and over again is nobody has said, well, my husband needed to change in order for our marriage to be okay. What each one of us has said is I had to grow. And I think that sounds like such a small thing, but when the waiter asked me, what's the key? I made a joke the first time, like, I won't say what I said. It was inappropriate, you know. What? Anyway, but then I was like, it's growth. It's literally like, if I could tell anybody one thing, it's work harder on yourself than you do even on your marriage, because that affects your marriage. And so when I'm taking a walk, yesterday, I was leaving work yesterday and I'd had some information it's a really good thing, but as I was processing, I was like, oh, this is really going to impact me. And yesterday was the anniversary of something that was difficult for me. And so I was not having a great day, and I was just processing, like, I don't know if I have capacity to like do this thing. And so I get in the car and it's like all over me, and he's like, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And I said, you know what? I can't talk about it right now because I know that what I'm feeling isn't real. Like, I know that I need to process to get to the truth of where I'm at and what's actually happening. So then I can talk to you about it and bring it. But it's taken me a long time, because otherwise I'm just like, you know, and
Yeah.
whatever. So I don't know. I think the key that we're all saying is it's so important to grow.
Yeah.
How do you do that when, especially in the younger years, and you have kids and responsibilities, and maybe you have a job? Like, how do you prioritize growing really for the sake of marriage? Because we're having the conversation about marriage.
Yeah.
And timing that. What'd you do?
I think the way I would do it differently. I don't think I did it well when I was younger, because again, I was trying to do everything that's correct.
Yeah.
And I think what I would do differently is I actually would pay attention to how I'm feeling. So for me, I cut off all my feelings and just tried to do the right thing. And the way I've had to grow is to get comfortable with uncomfortable feelings, get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and try to recognize what is that feeling trying to tell me. And that we have feelings because something is important. And if something is important to me and it's a need that's met, I have a good feeling. If something is important to me and that need is not being met, I have a very uncomfortable feeling. And so really, if you recognize what your feelings are, your feelings will tell you what your values are or what your preferences are. And so I think I would pay attention. That's me. That's how I needed to grow. I needed to pay attention to what was happening in my body. I needed to recognize that I'm nervous right now. When my husband is talking, I'm panic. I am in my brain is flooded. I'm in panic mode and I just want to walk out of the room. And so I needed to get comfortable with, I need to stay. I'm going to stay in this conversation. I'm really scared right now. And I was going to go back to something that you had said, like my husband had to learn to say, and what else? And what else? And what else? So that was something we had to learn because I was so afraid to talk. I was so afraid to say what I was feeling and what I really thought and what I really preferred. I was a stuffer, you know, I cut off everything. And so that was a wonderful thing that he started doing is just, and what else? And what else? Because by the third time, I'm actually going to say what I'm feeling.
Well, because you have an invitation to be real, because he's telling you, I'm here for you, I'm listening, and I know there's something else in there. I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah. And my whole time, I was trying to get him, just trying to get him to change because I can't tell, I didn't even know what I liked and preferred. I just know that I'm uncomfortable and I need you to change. And so once I started paying attention to what I am feeling and what's important to me, I could say it. And the first couple of times I did it, I just said what was important, or I asked, I made a request. This is what I need. And he was like, okay. And I was like, this is way easier than what I've been doing. I've been like kind of manipulating, like I need you to do this. And just straightforward, this is what I need was way easier. So
Yeah.
That's great.
That's good. How about y'all?
I think two things. Again, like you, we didn't start off very well at all. Our first year was awful. And so just setting people free that it's okay. It's going to be okay. Like it's just, just being able to make sure that people know that some things can be messy. Anyway, but I think two things. One thing, resources. So whether it's love languages, and that may seem cheesy, but those can be helpful. And then and this could be controversial, but the Enneagram really, really helped our marriage. So very much, because if you look at the Enneagrams, my heart is to want to be all 9. But when I learned who Roland was on that and who I am, changed our marriage. So I think resources, and those two are just two. And then the other thing that I would say is having some couples in your life that you can really do life well with. So going away together, vacation, be accountable. I think when we're talking about working on ourselves, like when there's nothing more real and vulnerable, living and sleeping and eating and being in, doing life with people well, to call out stuff in love and just, hey, can I challenge you on this? Or, hey, and I love that because I want that. I welcome that. I want to be real. I want to have people speak into my life. So I think just being immersed with different marriages and iron sharpens iron and, just being able to go to a friend's house and cry and just be like, this really hurt me. What would you do? What do you see? Help me. Versus it being, speaking ill of your husband, your partner. So I think those two things, resources, and then just having like-minded people around you that you can really do life well together.
so
That
good.
really helped us a lot.
Yeah, and that younger, like we got married at 19. David and I were
Yeah,
both married.
that's
We were
right.
19 years old. And so, I mean, our friends were 10 years older than us because our friends at 19 were getting married. They were going off to university. So just having, someone told me along the way, spend time with people that you want to kind of grow into, you know what I mean? And so it kind of naturally happened that way, that some of our very best friends, when we were first married, were 10 years on in their marriage. They had a kid or two, and, you know, you just kind of emulate what you're, I don't know what that phrase is, you know, like the average of the 5 people you hang out with, whatever. So we just put seasoned married people in our life. And because I don't think, you know, us as 19-year-olds, we're going to get a lot of wisdom from this other couple that could be 19. I mean, we're like all messing up at the same time. But if you put yourself, even, it doesn't even have to be 10 years, but just like a couple of years. They've already gone through that first year of marriage and banged out some of the obstacles that they experience and stuff. And so you can learn from that just by being around them.
Yeah. I also think, depending on how you grew up, like I grew up with parents that never, ever fought. And so going into marriage my first year, and literally the first weekend, we fought. And I thought, that's it. So I think my husband said at that point, I'm going to go and sleep on the couch just because he needed to get away. I thought that was it. I never, ever saw my parents ever have an argument, ever in my life. So I think, again, just surrounding yourself with some people that you can be like, okay, this is okay. Are we okay? Are we normal? Because the upbringing you may have had may not have helped you very much. Now, it may have, but if it didn't, then I think that's a really good idea. Just surround yourself with people that are just a little bit ahead, so you can be like, this happened, this is okay.
Can I add on? I actually have 2 things I'd like to add on. One is, I feel like if you're not arguing, somebody's not being honest.
That's so good.
Because everyone is different. Everybody has different preferences. Absolutely. We're all different humans. I mean, we have different what are those called?
Fingerprints.
I mean, we have different preferences. And so if you're not arguing, someone's not saying what their preferences are. And so it's okay to argue. Absolutely. Like you're just sharing that you have different values, you have different preferences, and how are we going to work it out? The other thing I was going to say is I think it's really important to learn boundaries and how to set boundaries, because I was, again, trying, like in a nice way, trying to get him to change. And what I've learned is, when something is happening that's not okay with me, here's what I'm going to do. When something's happening around me that's not okay with me, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with my behavior. How am I going to take care of myself?
That's good.
You know, and even just asking, you know, bringing up, this is my preference, making a request. Make a request of yourself first, because you really are the one that can make, you know, you can control yourself way more than you can't control other people.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyways, so being able to set a boundary, not as, I don't want you to ever do this again, but just, hey, this isn't good for me. And when this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And to let other people know that.
Boundaries are love. It's what enables us to be in a relationship with people. You know, boundaries in your marriage and with your kids and your friendships. And I mean, a boundary would be, I'm not going to hit you. Right? Like, seriously though, we understand that. We understand it until it's one that we don't like. You know, and so I understand that if I hit someone or lie to them or steal from them or whatever, like those are that, I mean, I'm making a joke about it. Those boundaries are like innate in us, right? Because, you know, it's a moral thing. But the same applies to how I'm being spoken to or how I'm being treated or, you know, whatever. And so I've had to learn, if I really love this person and I want to remain in relationship with them, then I need to set boundaries that are good for both of us, you know, and that's been really healing. One more thing that I would say on this too is that I think it's important, to your point, like your parents not fighting. I was thinking earlier, you know, one of my family members said to me when Casey and I got married, they didn't like Casey, not all of them, but this one family member. And this family member says to me, hey, husbands come and go, but family is forever. And that really was like, everyone in my family had been divorced. And so a mindset that I went into marriage with, and we tease all the time because I'm like, oh, I just thought you were going to be my first husband, you know, but I went into marriage, total opposite mindset of what you guys went into marriage. Like, we'll have fun until it's not fun anymore. And then we'll move on. And some circumstances changed in my life, and
Yeah.
anyway, it didn't work out that way. Praise God. But my point is that I had to start identifying lies.
That's good.
And I don't know that anybody so I had friendships that could say, is that really true? Or whatever. But I don't think anybody could like bring conviction. I had to go like, why do I think that? Why do I think that when we get in a fight? We tease all the time that I kicked him out like 7 times in the first year that we were married. He didn't always go, but I was like, pack your stuff and leave, and true story, one time I kick him out and I'm like, and don't come back. And then I go on a business trip and I get stuck, and this is like pre-cell phones, and I don't end up getting into Dallas until like midnight, and he has to come and pick me up from the airport. And I'm so mad because I don't want to give him the in, and he comes with flowers or whatever. But we tease all the time because that was my nature, And so I had to say one day, like through conversation with him and through him being like, hey, this isn't working for you to do this, Okay, why is that my MO? Oh, I'm afraid that if I like apologize or whatever, he's going to take advantage of me. Like I had to sit and think, what was the thing?
That's good.
Okay. Oh, he's going to take advantage of me. Well, why would he do that? And I remember the flip. And this is what I tell a lot of young women. I remember the flip the day that I was like, he's on my side.
That's good.
Like he's actually on my side. Like, I know that sounds so dumb, but I entered in like, somehow I just didn't see him that way. I saw him as sometime he would be gone. Yeah. And I just always needed to prepare for that, And so I was like, you're on my side. And he was like, duh, But when I could start looking at even arguments through that lens of, he doesn't want bad for me. We're not arguing because he wants harm for me. I could process through and the things that were true. And so, I don't know, that was a pivotal moment.
In my growth and change, I learned to really look at things. Here's the data. Here's actually what just happened. Like even in how loud he talks, I had to realize, oh, he's really not talking. His voice isn't going louder. It's just more direct. And so I had to look at things like, okay, here's actually what's happening. And then here's what my mind is telling me. Here's how I'm interpreting it. So my brain is interpreting it different than what is actually happening. And when I could look at what's actually happening, all my feelings would calm down. Like everything would kind of calm down. Good. But even if it was something like, oh, that actually did happen, like, oh, and that's important, that's good information too. Like, but I just noticed that my brain tends to interpret things bigger or with stories that aren't necessarily that are irrational.
We have our lens.
My stories can be irrational.
We have our lens for sure.
I think one of the things I'm still trying to learn is the whole win-lose culture, because I feel so often in marriage I lose because I feel like I have to submit sometimes and I don't want to, and then he'll constantly say to his we're on the same side or we're on the same team, and I'm like, no, I feel like I lost a game, so I still am learning how to rewire that feeling of that we are that it's a win-win, because that's what they'll say to me all the time. No, this is a win-win. And I'm like, is it though? It feels like not. I'm still 29. What are we? 28 years on in marriage, still trying to learn how to just. Okay, let's do this. We try not to fall into that same trap again, but that's a big one for me.
I think that's so good to even end this conversation on that. 29 years of marriage, 30 years of marriage, 36, 30, and what we've all said is, I just learned this. Yes, I just started this. And so I think my note for people would be, don't expect perfection. Don't expect for you to have a marriage like Ward and June Cleaver, without a lot of work and victories and failures and tears and prayers and all the stuff in between. And makeup sex is awesome. So,
that's very true.
And I was going to say, just connect where you can connect. You're not going to connect in every way. It's not all going to be perfect. But you got married, so there's something. I mean, so just connect on the one or two things where you do have fun while you're growing.
There you go. That's good. Thanks, ladies. Great conversation.
Thank you.
It's good.
It's good.